Hi, everyone. Is everyone joining us here? Let's see. Yep, here it comes, everybody. We'll wait for everybody to get in. And so thank you again, everyone. So thanks for joining the SAP Press Book Club and our book of I guess it's the month now. We're doing SAP S/4HANA, an introduction. And I really wanted to get this one in before Sapphire. So everybody had a lot of questions and so forth. So we're going to start this off. And I want to and if you don't know me, I'm Kendall Tyler, and I am with DXC. And I am also the host of the SAP Press Book Club. And we have Devraj Bardhan with us today. He is with IBM. He is the CTO. And this is his, wait a minute, how many versions of this?
This fourth edition, yeah.
Fourth edition of this book. So we have been writing. So say hey to everybody.
Hi everybody. Great to see all of you on the call today. I'm based out of London, if that gives you an idea of the time zone I'm in, and I'm pretty sure that people all over the world on this call.
Yes, everybody's. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many people we have here today. So this is great, great turnout, and everybody's got a ton of questions for you. And I was looking at the book, and I'm like, fourth edition. You've been writing this since 2015.
Yeah, 2015 we started. 2016 it was published the first time in October. So yes.
And so this has been going on for 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Yes. And you have a daughter who is 7 years old.
That's right, yes.
So why hasn't she been featured in the book?
She has been featured in the latest book she's been featured, but one of the things she did when the book came out, I think the second edition and the third edition, is she would open the book and the first thing she would do is look at my picture, and then she'll say, "Where is me?" And she would want.
No, you gotta put her in there. Totally put her in there. I'm going for her. Yay! So, which I think is pretty cool. So everybody has. We're gonna do just kind of banter back and forth with us, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A because I know a lot of people have a ton of questions for you in regards to this. And this book is very high level for anybody out there who's interested, curious, what exactly is S/4HANA, which I think is great because most books are very just one particular subject. This one kind of gives you a broad overview of everything. And so if you guys are all on ECC and wondering what in the world is S/4HANA, this is a great book to do that. And so let's start with the best question ever. What is SAP S/4HANA?
Easy question, but all of you, I would assume, would know what SAP ECC is, right? So, and for us, from where I'm looking at it, I started off working on SAP when it was ERP way back in 1997. That's really way long back. And from ERP, we had a big change to SAP ECC, which is Enterprise Core Component, that came out, I think, in 2000, 2001 or 2002. I don't really exactly know which year it was. I lost count. But since then, it has been about 15 years. And then in 2015, SAP came out with S/4HANA. So what happens with S/4HANA is it is the ECC rewritten for a cloud a little bit. It has got HANA as a database, which is an in-memory database. And we all know when I started my SAP career, I was working in SAP on a GUI. I did not know which operating system I was working on, which database I was working on, which processor was behind it, and which hardware it was working on. And I think it's true for a lot of us.
Yeah.
With S/4HANA, SAP says, yeah, we used to support every database, every operating system, every system. They said we need to simplify it. Mm-hmm. And the reason we need to simplify it is because technical reason, two things. We can't support every database in the world because it takes too long for us to upgrade and give you a new patch. So HANA became the default standard. The first thing was no more DB2, Oracle, SQL Server. It's only HANA as a database. We only have to focus on one database. And second thing that all of us know about, and I think the technical guys in the room will know better, is that SAP told you to write everything in a ABAP language, which is the business programming language. Mm-hmm. And then SAP compiled it to the lower level database and OS commands. With HANA, you can still write code at the ABAP level, But if necessary, you can also write code at a HANA level, which means you can get better performance. You can write store procedures. And cloud native developers who are used to programming in Oracle or Sybase or DB2 will love it, because if you write a store procedure, you can do much more with a database. So no, I'm not saying store procedure in the real sense of store procedure, but you get it. You can do something extra.
So really, like ECC compared to S4HANA is pretty much, HANA is like super fast database, which if you're on ECC, you're not there. So jump onto HANA, that make you run everything a lot faster, and also be able to do analytics too. I mean,
you can do analytics. So people used to have BW for analytics. And when did BW come? In 99, when I was working, there was no BW. We used to write ABAP reports, and every data was in ECC, and it took an awful long time to do it. For example, my first project, the HR report took about 16 hours to run. They had to fly in an expert, because I was my first project. I thought, oh, Devraj is just, starter. Maybe we need someone, an expert. They flew an expert who came all the way from, I think, UK, London to Frankfurt, where we were at the client side. He analyzed everything and came and said, Devraj did a perfect code. I like, put his pat on the back for me. But he said, it is so time consuming because your HR data is so huge and it's so much of the information, you need so long.
Right.
And people who know HR info types, they know how long it takes.
Because a lot of people, because a lot of people will do like just BW on HANA, or they'll go ECC on HANA, but then that next step is S4HANA.
Yes.
So let's say I'm a client, I'm running ECC. I have been doing, this has been my big thing right now. So I'm client running ECC, have been doing it for 20 years. Okay. And I pretty much have like, hanging out on ECC. What's the big deal? I mean, I can stay here till what, 2027? So if I'm hanging out in 2027, and so I've got like 5 more years to figure out the roadmap to get to S4. 3 more years. So, all right. So I have 3 more years.
The reason 3 more years is because after 3, you have to start the migration process, and it still take you 18 months to, move. Right?
Yes. Okay. So 3 years, I've got to get a roadmap, figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm looking at my whole system and going, you know what? I have over-configured the system. Over the years, I've done everything out of the, we've been crazy, and so now what do I do? I mean, if I've over-configured my system.
So there are basically 3 things that we normally say to clients and customers. One is you can do a brownfield migration, which means you take your ECC and move it as it is from your on-premise world, or if you're running it on a virtual machine or a cloud, and convert it as S4HANA. It's called a brownfield conversion.
Okay.
You will not get a lot of benefit of S4HANA, but you will get at least a database, the speed will be there, you will have some improvements, but that will be a staging ground for you to do even further. But you will get to S4 pretty quick. You can get most customers can get it between 9 to 18 months. They can get a running system in S4HANA with a brownfield.
Gotcha. So I can get onto S4 just doing brownfield.
Just doing brownfield. A lot of standard tools available from SAP are standard. Just like you upgrade your ECC to the version EHP 7, EHP 8, you typically use the same approach, DMO, SUM, and just move the whole thing to S4HANA and the latest version that's available.
So let's say when I put in SAP 20 years ago, my business was doing one thing, but now I've acquired all these different companies. We've sold off a lot of stuff. Now we're doing all this new things. So my business has changed. So now what do I do? I'm running like 300 different applications, running them all into SAP because I have all these different, new things I'm doing. So now what?
Yeah. Now what? So there you have got 2 other options. One is something called the Bluefield option, which is a hybrid or rapid migration, but in a rapid move way. In a sense, you take the best of brownfield and the best of greenfield into one. What it means is you basically create an empty shell. You take your ECC. What takes the most time to migrate to S4 is the data that's sitting there. So delete all the data and create an empty shell. Upgrade the empty shell to S4HANA, then selectively decide what data and configuration you want from ECC into S4HANA. And that is the rapid move. And what happens with rapid move is if I have, say, 60 companies on my ECC, it's too risky for me to take all my 60 companies in a big bang to S4HANA.
Yeah.
So what I do, I choose 5 companies as pilot, and I move the entire system to S4HANA, but only choose 5 companies and move them to S4HANA, whereas the rest of this 55 can still run an ECC in a hybrid mode. So you have 5 companies in S4, 25 countries ECC, test it out, make sure everyone's happy, then start moving the next lot of 10, 20 companies across to HANA, which means you can get the first pilot maybe in 8, 9 months in.
Yeah.
Learn from it. You will obviously find issues and stuff, and you're starting small, so you're agile. Fix them, and then the next lot by 18 months, get all of them over, the rest 55 countries over in the next 9 months, and still match your 18 months timeline, but with a split approach, like start live with a small company and then grow over, over
Gotcha.
time.
So let me ask you this. So my biggest thing is as a client, so how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to go to upper management and say, hey, we're going to just move everything over to this new thing because in 3 years, 5 years, it's going to be out of support. So how do I say, hey, upper management, this is a good idea? So
we've all been through it, right? Every time we want to do an upgrade, the CFO comes and says, what's the business case?
Yeah,
I'm happy my report runs. Yes, the IT is a bit slow, or the user says they're complaining.
Yeah.
Hey, but even my expense report is slow, and you guys in IT haven't fixed my expense report yet. I don't like clicking pictures of every bill every time I travel. Why should I worry about it? You're still making me do it. So one of the things that we talked about in the book is a business case. What is the business case? And the business case is something that we could spend an hour talking about, right? But the most important business case for you is take a look at S4HANA. See what does S4HANA offer you to your company. You may have about 10,000 lines of ABAP code, or 10 or 100 or 200 objects, which are now obsolete because SAP has built them in the standard. Now, the first option for you is if you switch off your old ABAP code and switch on to S4HANA to the standard code, then SAP does the maintenance for you. You do not need a bunch of ABAPers trying to maintain it for you. And those ABAPers can be freed up to do even more innovation because your HR is falling apart. You're going to implement SuccessFactors. Your SRM is falling apart. You're going to implement Ariba or something. What's happening to CRM? CRM can't be moved to S4. So what are you doing with CRM? You're going to C4HANA or a competitive software, but you're doing that. You just can't live with CRM anymore because you need C4HANA, right? And APO is going away. You have to replace APO with IBP. So the whole world is changing. And if you are like most of my clients are, they already have Ariba in the house. They already have SuccessFactors in the house. They already have IBP in the house. They are struggling because they are being forced to upgrade the ECC to EHP 8 and future versions because otherwise the standard integration from the cloud is not being supported. So they are being forced to upgrade, and they know that they're upgrading today to ECC. They will be forced to upgrade to S4 tomorrow because if they don't upgrade, their SRM system will not work anymore. Ariba will not work anymore.
Well, let's say I have some custom thing I wrote or some crazy application that's out of support, but we've had this application for 20 years. Can I drag that in?
You can drag it in, and there are 2 ways to drag it in. One is you can drag it in with your ABAP ECC code and say, I'll just let it run on ABAP on S4 as it is because it works. Or on the cloud, you have 3 ways to deploy the code. You can deploy it as an in-app extension. You can deploy it as a side-by-side extension, which is you can go to Node.js or CAP as a programming model. And a lot of industry solutions today are being built on CAP, and CAP is becoming the new de facto standard. So that could be an option. And then you've got ABAP platform on the cloud, which is the steampunk environment. You can move the ABAP to the cloud, which is the RESTful ABAP programming model. And then you have it up there completely running on the latest version of S4HANA and the latest version of ABAP on the cloud. And guess what? SAP is upgrading the cloud version every 3 months. So you're getting all the cool new features of ABAP on the cloud almost every 3 months. That means you're not sitting in an old ECC with a very old ABAP version. You're on a cloud and you have the latest ABAP version anytime, which means the power for a developer improves so much more because they are able to get all the new features, of ABAP that they can start using.
So So we were talking about like let's say like, we want to, our business processes have changed. And this is a great time for me to look at my business, figure out, are we doing the right things? Are we doing it on time? Is everything working correctly? Isn't this a great time for me to kind of look at everything and make sure this is the proper way to do things, or the most cutting edge ways to do things?
Right. So what we can do there, and what's customers asking is, I have a 20-year-old ECC system. We know that it kind of works, but it is not what the business does today, because we have moved on to e-business. We have moved on to a different model. We want to analyze our current business process and suggest something. And if we run something like a business process intelligence through Signavio or through Celonis, we figure out how many ways is the customer today creating a sales order or a purchase order, and what are the different flows the sales order is going through and a purchase order is going through, how many hoops does it have, how many variations does it have. And then we can map it to a standard and say, you are a CPG industry. The CPG industry by default this is how our customers do it, SAP customers. There's no reason why you should be doing it in 40 or 50 or 60 different ways and having 40 or 50 different user exits to manage it. You can actually do it in 7 different ways, because that's the most optimal way for you to do it. So bring it in and do it in 7 different ways. And we do it, and then you can analyze those 7 ways and kind of start activating those 7 ways and start using the 7 ways going forward. So that for me becomes the most important one. So very clearly, we're bringing in business process intelligence and Signavio in the mix, and Signavio then helps analyze the business processes and optimizes the business processes. And then what typically works is, once you know your optimized business process, then that becomes the seed for talking about Greenfield, which I haven't talked about. And Greenfield is re-implementing S4 from scratch in a new system, in a new way of doing things, rather than trying to, take your old ECC and somehow retrofitting it, to work in a new world. You rebuild the system. Obviously, rebuilding takes time. It is a lot longer. It can take 24 to 36 months, but then you get a nice, shiny new SAP system fit for the internet and cloud native. And your run cost will be up very, very low, because you would be building everything using in-app and side-by-side. Mm-hmm. And in-app is the way a lot of developers will happen, because SAP makes sure that when you upgrade, you're not breaking the system. You will not have any more spouse and SPD. How awesome will that be?
So let's talk about RISE. What is RISE? That is like the topic of the day. And anybody going to Sapphire, this is the topic of the day. Everybody talking about anybody at SAP, this is the topic of the day. So what is, I get this from customers all the time. What's RISE?
So RISE is probably the 3rd or 4th iteration of SAP trying to go to a SaaS version of the S4HANA, but giving you the flexibility of on-premise S4HANA, which means all the features of S4HANA. So SAP has basically 2 flavors. One is S4HANA Cloud, that works for very small companies or companies which have very standard business processes. Typically, every SAP customer does not fall in that category, because we love to customize SAP.
I know.
Yeah? And one of the reasons why SAP became so big was because they gave you a framework and allowed you to customize it.
Yes.
And that's the reason why you and I even have a career today, right?
I know.
It's very clear, right? And it's not a bad thing, because if a customer had to build his own ERP, you would have spent maybe 100 times more money than today, right? Because of SAP gives you a huge chunk, and then you modify it and you extend it, and you still have a fantastic middle halfway house, that they say. Get the best of SAP, get the best of my industry and my company, put it all together, and then I'm good, right?
Right.
With RISE, what SAP is trying to do is trying to tell the customers that, you want to get a standard software. You want to get a SaaS license. And the only way you can get a SaaS license and have the flexibility on-premise is to go with RISE. So what does RISE give you? It gives you business transformation as a service. It gives you a license cost of SAP packaged. It also says that if you have an ECC license, we will basically reduce that ECC license as your S4 increases. So you have balancing of your cost. We all know that SAP, you have a perpetual license, but you're still paying a significant amount of money every year for support, 20%, 22%, or whatever it is. And that's a huge amount of money that you're paying.
Yeah.
And some of it is shelfware, you're not even using it, but you're paying support for it. And S4HANA is there. And as you start using S4HANA, your cost is going to go up in S4HANA.
Mhm.
SAP and RISE will decrease your ECC cost while your S4 cost increases to kind of balance the cost.
Mhm.
And on top of it, SAP is telling you that we will take care of hosting it either on AWS, Azure, GCP, or now IBM Cloud.
Mhm.
So it can be hosted in a hyperscaler of your choice.
Mhm.
And the managed services will be taken care of by either SAP for AWS, Azure, GCP, or some SIs or IBM when it's on IBM Cloud or some of the hyperscalers. So the
Mhm.
managed service means creating the landing zone on the cloud, migrating your SAP ECC or S4, putting it on the cloud,
Mhm.
upgrading. The whole basis work is done by SAP or
Okay.
IBM in this case for a price that you pay for RISE. And then the
Installed by
customer,
DXC. Installed by
yeah,
DXC.
and the
then
access, yes, definitely, yes. Yes. And then the customer or the SIs can then take care of the rest of it, which is the application development, the application maintenance, and the upgrades and all of that. So the basis work of setting up the environment and the low-level work of doing the connectivity with the setting of a system is taken care of by SAP, and a lot of the transformation is then left to the client. So for that, for the client, it is okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about the basis work and the underlying infrastructure. I
Mhm.
just care about I get a SAP GUI that I can log into, or a Fury portal or URL that I can log into and start configuring my SAP. That's where it starts.
Got it. So then you can still configure it any way you want.
Yeah. You can still configure it. You can still modify, not modify. I mean, you will put as much custom development as you want. There's no restriction to it.
Uh-huh.
But SAP does recommend that you at least upgrade once a year, once a couple of years. But the minimum is you have to upgrade once every 5 years, because today, the 2015 is out of support, 2016 is getting out of support end of this year.
Right.
So if you're on 2016 on RISE, you will be forced to move to 2020 or 2021 because SAP is not going to support you S4HANA 16 or 1610 next year. They'll not support it. So that's the only, because SAP also wants you to be on the latest version of SAP, because it is the power of SAP's upgrade that will actually drive your business case. Otherwise, there's no business case for you.
Gotcha. So really, when we're talking RISE, we're talking more of the basis guys. Either you are going to have them or you're not going to have them.
You will still need basis guys, because not all basis tasks are going to be done by RISE.
Okay.
A part of it will be done by RISE on a standard price, and then you have to pay a little more to get additional features. Think of your mobile phone. Yeah, you have a mobile phone. You may have an unlimited contract for a number of minutes and text and data. When you go roaming, what happens?
Okay. All right. So that's good to know. You're not going to lose your whole staff when you do this. I think that's been mainly a lot of the problems. So it is 12:23, and I'm going to open it up to questions. And let's see here. Question. Let's go with this first one here. Where are we at? Let's find a good one here. Oh, my company is partially on S4HANA. What should be our strategy now?
So if you're partially on S4HANA, it means that either a part of your LOB, line of business, is on S4HANA, or it means that you have gone live with one company or one part of your geo on S4HANA, which means the rest of it is still on ECC. So then the next logical question would be, what will it take to move rest of your ECC landscape also to S4HANA? Are you going to be on the same instance and move over the rest of the ECCs across, because you already have some experience with S4HANA, which means it's great, you're not starting from scratch? Or are you going to then install a new S4HANA and migrate the existing ECC across and then have two versions of S4HANA? So we need more details, but what I have seen companies do is they start small and they start off with one S4HANA instance. They learn from it, start small, and then they do selective data transfer or temporalized version and move in other company codes in other countries into the S4HANA and slowly ramp down on S4, SECC as the ramp on S4. And at some point in time, they can shut out the ECC and then just remain on S4.
Yeah, because you really don't have to do, it's not like you have to do Big Bang and everything gets thrown into S4. I mean,
That's
you
right.
literally, I mean, you got, all those different like CRM, SRM, MDM, APO, everything, so you can actually do them phasing everything in.
And one example I can give is one customer said, I will just start with MDG because MDM will not move to cloud. There's no cloud to it, and it cannot be moved to cloud. So let me do MDG. So they started MDG project and they built a foundation of a fantastic system of the master it on MDG. They connected, MDG was running on cloud, obviously, and was on S4HANA. And they connected that MDG back into the ECC systems and everything was fine. It's all working. And then they say, oh, why? MDG works, but that system is being underutilized. What can I do? Start central finance on it. Start putting central procurement on it. Start putting EHM on it, something like that. Oh, what else can I start? And all of a sudden, before we knew it, they were basically growing the scope of S4HANA on that system. And they were suddenly saying, okay, can I do cash and banking on a system? Can I do some other features on the system? And it started growing. And now they have a very big SAP system, S4HANA system. And they still have a lot of systems running on ECC, but they're totally complementing each other right now. They're switching off functionalities that they don't need, like FSCM. They don't have FSCM in ECC, so they switched on FSCM on the cloud. Beautiful, works beautifully, right? And they can now do TM on the cloud. They can do EWM on the cloud. They don't need extra EWM box or extra TM box anymore on premise. Everything is moving on S4HANA. That S4HANA doesn't have the core FICO MMSD, but it has central finance. It has central procurement connected to Ariba. It works beautifully.
So here's a great question. I love this one. So in your opinion, if one of the global big players sticks to ECC, I'm thinking like big company, let's say like, I don't know, one of the great big companies that's running ECC, like Microsoft or an Apple or a Coke or gosh, I can go on and on and on. Do you believe that SAP will postpone the 2027 deadline and support for a longer period? Because they did do it for COVID.
So we all know that from when we were ERP and it went to ECC, They did not stick on to ERP. Do you think that customers running ERP 4.6 today?
Yeah.
Of course there are. But is SAP supporting them? Probably not.
Right.
And maybe the customers are themselves supporting it, or they're just having that because they don't have a motivation to move. But most of the customers I know have a lot of ECCs, have S4, and they may have one tiny S4HANA stuck in a corner because of legacy. It's there.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, you think about the big picture. Why would you stay in ECC? What will you gain by staying in ECC? The whole world is moving. Look at what happened with COVID. The whole way the world works changed overnight.
Yeah.
How many companies survived that COVID wave? The companies that were agile and could know how to work on the cloud were the first ones that survived. And I'll give you one live example. Vendor onboarding is a very important task. You have SAP MDG, you onboard a vendor, and it's a fairly complex process, but it is a very important process. And it's simple that all of you will understand. Guess what happened during COVID? A lot of the big suppliers could not supply to the companies that wanted it. And what did the companies have to do? They had to be agile and try to onboard more suppliers in. Just imagine what would happen if you didn't have Ariba and MDG. You could not scale up fast. And with a cloud, with S4HANA, people could scale up rapidly. And a customer that I'm talking about was managed to onboard about 200 customers a year, managed to onboard 2,000 customers in 1 month after COVID so that his business could run, because his existing 10,000 suppliers, 8,000 could not deliver him what he wanted.
Ah, that makes sense.
So he was able
supply chain was crazy too. I mean,
yes, you have to.
I mean, look at the toilet paper thing. That was hilarious. I mean,
so I would say if every customer in the world had S4HANA running with a proper IBP or a proper supply chain tool, I do not think that outage of having empty shelves would have ever happened. But then that's not the way the world is. So the person asking the question, will SAP extend the support? Think what happens if another pandemic like COVID or something else hits us. is your company going to be ready for it? Don't
Yeah.
look at what's the past, look at what's the future, look at where the world is moving to. And we are seeing a shift from ECC to S4. It's been a gradual shift, but a shift is happening. The earlier majority was in ECC. Slowly, the majority is eroding as people are moving to S4 and getting the benefits of S4. Now, the problem is not should I move to S4HANA? It's the customer who's already in S4HANA said, which version should I move to in S4HANA? When do I upgrade to my next version? That's where the momentum is. So a customer is on 1610 or 1709 is upgrading to 2021, planning upgrade to 2022. That's where the movement is happening. So if you are saying, oh, I'm on ECC, will SAP extend it from 2020 to 2030? They might. They might even extend to 2035, but then
I know
you don't want to
customers
be
still running R2. I mean,
R2.
yeah.
But you don't want to be a dinosaur in the race. You really need to be up there, challenging, and working with it. And think about it. SAP S4HANA is just one environment that your client base has. You have success factors or Workday for your HR. You have Ariba or Coupa for your procurement. You already have it. It's already being used. CRM, look at how many customers are using Salesforce today, how many customers are using C4HANA today, right? And then look at APO. How many people are using APO versus how many people have moved on to O9 and Nexus and IBP? That movement has already happened. So why should your ECC lag behind?
That's true. Because, my biggest thing is like, how do you get your team excited about moving off of ECC? Because I think a lot of us have been very complacent. I mean, hanging out, just kind of going with the flow, watching all this stuff happen around us, but we're in our little bubble. We're kind of hiding out, so it's hard to jump into that big new world. I think that's a lot of the, the scary parts there. And then someone just asked, here's a good one. What are the considerations when choosing between SAP Rise and your own hyperscaler?
Right. Very good question. I think one of the best questions we have got so far, right? It's very simple, right? Yeah. So it's a simple question, a simple answer, but it has, I don't want to give a consulting, it depends, right? For me, it is simple. Do you want a cookie cutter solution or do you want a very bespoke solution? What I mean by bespoke solution is you already have a landing zone created with Azure or AWS or Google Cloud or IBM Cloud, or you already have a fantastic cloud transformation journey. You have your data set up. You have your, Azure Active Directory set up, and you have different departments consuming the cloud APIs. Why should SAP be left behind? If you're on that bandwagon where you are able to create a landing zone and deploy SAP workloads on your own, you can choose your own hyperscaler. Make sure they're able to negotiate the right price from the hyperscaler and you're getting a good deal, right? A lot of customers come to me and say, what, I do not I want to go with SAP Rise because I'm not able to get a good discount or a good price from a hyperscaler because my consumption in the cloud is not high enough. In which case Rise may look attractive. Number two is how much license support you're paying for ECC, how much perpetual license you'll pay for S4, and how much support you're going to pay for it becomes one question around it. And if that's not the criteria, that's pretty much commercial, really rather than technical. The technical guys, the CTOs, the CIOs will say, I have a DevOps pipeline. I press a button, I copy my production to QA, I run a test, I destroy my QA. Can't do it in Rise. You can, but you have to raise a ticket and wait a few days for it to happen.
Yeah, but don't you think that really the whole Rise thing is more like, if I'm a user or someone on the team that's doing more of the functional side, it really doesn't matter. I to me, that kind of goes like, everybody just forget about that. It's S4 HANA. It's not, Rise, but it's just a version really of what you're doing. If you're a user or somebody on the system, you're not going to know the difference really. So someone just asked, are there any specific benefits for the auto industry when moving to S4HANA? Think of anything?
It's not only auto industry, it's for every industry, there is some benefit, right? If you're an auto industry, and I can take examples of BMW here, they have got multiple ECC versions today. they also have some S4 versions. They have tons of cloud software that they're using. Just think of, if you're not in industry, you have the dealers and they have their own software. What happened during COVID? People could not go into a shop to buy a car, but the people still virtually bought a car. Which companies do you think won? The companies which had a fantastic digital presence where they could do a 3D image of the car, show you sitting in the car, show you all the features. If you can't do that today, you're out of the game. So you need that. Right? Similarly, I mean, think of buying a car experience. How easy is the experience of buying a car? It's actually quite shitty, you know. You spend such a lot of money for buying a car, and what you get is you get to a dealer, and if you're lucky, you can get to drive a car for 1 hour and make a decision, you know, worth $50,000 of buying a car. And then you don't get a car with your own seat color you want. You do not get the color outside. You're forced,
so you're getting
forced into features. You get forced into features that you don't need. And the timelines are ridiculous. How many people get a car on the day they were promised? Hardly anybody.
Right. So it's a competitive advantage, really.
Yes.
Going S4 is giving you a competitive advantage over other ones that aren't.
Major, because you are able to look at, as soon as someone is at a customer is on the website trying to decide a car, you can look at your plan and tell the customer, you know what, if you order in the next 15 minutes, I'll come at a car and it'll be outside your door tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Imagine that experience the customer is going to get. If he knows that he's punches the car details here, his trade checks will all get done. His old car will get picked up and new car will deliver outside his door in the morning.
Yeah, I've always said it's all about following the data. If you can't follow the data, then it's, you know, that's kind of what S4 is. It's like simplifying everything so that everything is going to be integrated, that you can see it, that you have a competitive advantage. Versus, you know, more of a closed in, you're, you know, not using everything or you can't see everything. I think that's one of the biggest problems. Like things aren't connected, systems aren't connected. And the auto guy said, is there any specific add-ons or compatible to S4HANA within the auto industry? So everything is pretty much add-on, I think. If you want, you can add on anything.
And they've got industry cloud. So if auto has industry cloud, it'll obviously work. If there are certain features of the auto which is working in ECC, which doesn't work on S4, I don't think that is existing. You might have something called incompatible view. And compatible view is again a new word, which means that the same ECC code will work in S4HANA until SAP gives you an equivalent S4HANA code base. So anything typically works in ECC should work in S4HANA.
Because doesn't it have to be all Unicode over?
Yeah.
I learned that on another book. That migration has to be in Unicode. I was like, what? So
yeah. So I think for auto industry, there are not only auto industry, for any industry, there are lots of benefits. And you know, that's one of the reasons why you guys go and get this book, because this book is about, I don't know how fat it is. It's got business case, it's got it's got a huge amount of information, and it does have some industry cloud. We haven't covered auto here, but we do have covered something like retail. We've covered a few other industries in this, and I'm just trying to grab which industries we've covered here, because it's important to understand that which industries. So energy and natural resources we have covered, service industry we have covered, discrete industry, consumer industry, financial services, and public services. So there were 6 industries that we have covered in the book, which gives a flavor for the business user to understand and see what does S4HANA Cloud or S4HANA provide for the industry. And I'm pretty sure auto, there's a good coverage as well. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I can give you a little more pointers on auto if you really want, because it could, I could provide you to some of the links that SAP has, or the industry cloud has.
Yeah, both of us have working with a lot of auto companies, so we might be working with you. So give us all both a call. We'll help you out on that one. But one thing that I've noticed that most people, but the biggest difference between ECC or whatever you're on, R3, or if you're still in R2, God bless you. But don't you think that the finance is the biggest change on everything? So if you're a finance person, it's wonderful. You guys have no idea the difference between it. So tell us what is the biggest, like if I'm a finance person, what am I going to expect?
So for a finance person, the first thing is your finance, FI and CO are pretty much clubbed together. And you don't have to have two different processes, one for finance and one for controlling. You have financial accounting and management accounting into one. That's definitely the first advantage.
So
The second,
FICO is now together.
yeah,
Remember that.
yeah. And then you have one table, AC Doc A, which is one table name that all of you should know from the finance background, where all your documents are posted in one place, which means that all your postings are in one place. And from there, you can pull out your universal journal out and, and really do all your accounting there. And not only that, you also have AC account P, which is the planning tables, and AC account C, which is the consolidation tables. So basically, the whole finance is one area that has been rewritten quite a lot for S/4HANA and has been built in such a way that the finance transformation of a company really flies, and really works for you. It simplifies the finance, reduces the number of transactions you need to do, number of processes you need to do. And think of it, a big company running a ECC finance process may have a back office of hundreds of people doing it. With S/4HANA, you can automate a lot. Doesn't mean that you're going to get rid of the people. Those people can be put onto high value tasks. Why does 20% of my clients not pay me on time? Go find a DSO analysis and try to optimize it and give them some benefits so that they pay on time.
But also, wasn't it like before it was set up, you are a customer or you are a supplier, kind of thing. And now, and then people were like, well, wait a minute, I buy and sell to the same person. So now that's changed, I think. Wasn't it like, now it's like everybody can be a buyer seller or whatever.
Yeah, so it becomes a business partner. You set up a person as a business partner, and then the business partner can be a customer, a vendor, or even employee.
Yeah.
Because employee can also be a customer.
Oh, that's true. You could buy something from
that. Yeah, I mean, if you work for an auto company, you work for an auto company, you get a car from a company that you have to, lease from, and then you are a customer.
And then also, wasn't it another big thing was delivery to like a person's house? I mean, that's a huge one, like before you couldn't do that. I mean, so now it's like, because everybody's talking about that's the new thing, how do you deliver all the way, deliver instead of just stop at a one person, kind of thing.
Exactly. So we did a small application for one of the oil and gas companies. You pull into a retail station and you want to buy a particular lubricant for your car, right? They don't have it in stock.
Yeah.
They take the order, and guess what? The service provider actually delivers that oil to your car. Which means if your car is parked at a car park, they will be able to deliver it at a car park.
That's true. And also, you can ship it direct from anybody as well. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things that are happening around that. So I think that's neat, especially since, everybody's like, shipping everything to your house or wherever, you are kind of thing. So that's a neat one. What else would be? Oh, Fiori apps. We can't forget that. That's big.
That's big. And especially if you're looking at the fact that SAP UI was not something that the people were really proud of. So Fiori is changing the perception, and you can have very light, nice Fiori apps, which can be very easy to use, and you build it once, you customize it once, and then it will work on your mobile phones, it'll work on your laptops, on your tablets, and that's what you want. And you can even create URLs that you can send to your business partners who are customers and vendors who will also use the Fiori app and basically use it. And you use BTP to expose those Fiori apps to the cloud so that your business partners can log in and, do a self-service. So it's really a very cool innovation. So if you look at S/4HANA, you have the finance, which is a big change. Analytics inside the same system is a very big change. You do not have to go to BW for operational reporting, at least, right? And then you are also able to get a lot of analytic reports and KPIs using Fiori, in addition to your very simple apps and approval apps, and everything is very nice. So basically, it's a good package.
The one thing that most people don't understand is like training. So training is very difficult, getting everybody trained. People will move around and so forth. But if you have a Fiori app and you've got people that are resistant to using a computer. So like if let's say you've got a person out in a warehouse and he's like, I have to approve something before something else happens, but you know what? I just don't have time to run back to the terminal, log in, figure out where it is, da, da, da. And then now they're like, okay, dude, that's in the warehouse, you have a Fiori app on here. Just hit yes or no, and then there's really no training involved in that. And you're getting your processes done a lot faster. So I think as far as Fiori apps go, that to me is one of the biggest benefits.
It is very, very, beneficial to have Fiori working.
Mhm.
So, some people may say, what, I can also get Fiori working on ECC. True, you can get Fiori working on ECC,
Mhm.
but only a small subsection of the Fiori apps are available for ECC. A majority of them are available only for S4HANA. Think about it, right? You have, say, a subscription to a pay TV channel, but you have, maybe you do not have a membership to the highest level. You only get to say episode 1 to 4, and for $5 you got to pay, right? Or you got to upgrade yourself to the next level. S4HANA is that. You get about a handful of Fiori apps in ECC. Great, try it out. And then once you get a flavor, that makes it the business case for you even more compelling to say, what, you've seen the flavor, business users, these Fiori apps, aren't they great? We moved to S4HANA, you get an even better, experience and much more Fiori apps.
Yeah. Here's one. What do you think is the next step to S4HANA? Could there possibly be a feature in the future beyond, what's in the, what are we going to look forward to? What do you think?
So when ECC 6 came out, what did Hasso-Plattner say? You will never have to do it ever. We are going to take care of your upgrades. Yeah, you do not have to do anything of the ERP to S4. What happened to the promise 15 years later? You're upgrading, people are complaining, and then they complain for 5 years, and people, stop complaining and getting on with it, right?
Right.
So I would say the next iteration from where, if I have a crystal glass to see, would be that S4HANA will actually move and become a complete SaaS product.
Yeah.
It will be available on the cloud natively, just like SuccessFactors is a native product, IBP is a native product. That's what S4HANA Cloud is going to become.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you are looking to get there, where SAP upgrades the environment for you every 3 months and completely doesn't cause you any, disturbance at all, you really need to move to S4HANA Cloud and keep the code clean. Make sure you not have any, nasty ABAP code sitting there, because you want to prepare that environment for the next big move, which will be the S4HANA Cloud SaaS version, which will come, because that is the direction the world is going to.
Wouldn't it be cool if it was like, Alexa, do this? We could say HANA or have some name and you just verbally tell it system to do it.
There is conversational AI from BTP, which you can activate. And then we already had a nice little cool app to do that, and we showcased it at Sapphire in 2017 or 2018. Yeah, 2018. So we can do that, and it's a really cool app. And partners who are on the call, check it out on the SAP Partner Edge. There are some very cool demos where you can program your keywords, and the keywords could be, please do this and please do that, and you can integrate it with Alexa if you want. You can, and it'll do that. It can connect to Teams and Slack, and you can give commands, and it'll wait for the wake word and start doing things. Example. You and I are discussing, we're in the same company, right? Let's assume, and we are discussing, hey, what, my laptop is broken, and you are my manager. You say, yeah, Devraj, you told me, and I saw the, a ticket, the snow ticket, and the operator did say that it's out of warranty, and it needs to be replaced. I approve it. Just imagine, Teams has a wake word, approve, it picks up, finds the context, creates a PR on my name, says that you have approved it, sends it up to the procurement department and say, please order a laptop for Devraj, and ship it to his home.
That would be no more scheduling, no more doing anything, calendar invites.
And no need for me to create a purchase equation, figure out what cost center to use, then send you 20 reminders to approve it. Then you approve it, it goes to the procurement guy. The procurement guy doesn't know to approve it or not. He approves it. It's all in the chat. It's all in the Teams chat. You approve it. I know the purchase order number. The procurement guy, as soon as he approves it, the chat will come up, purchase order number approved. Lenovo shifts it. It's Lenovo shifted, and then that FedEx is delivering it to your house tomorrow.
Yeah,
everything in a chat box. You have not logged into SAP.
That would be cool.
But you need S4HANA in the background. That is not going to work.
Yeah, it's not going to work unless you have on.
So that's the foundation for everything.
Okay, here's another one. Background is we have 2 lines of business spread across 4 different ECCs. That's typical. And recently implemented CFIN, SAC, and MDGBP, and SAP ECC is the source of truth for transactional and master data. What should be our approach to move to S/4HANA?
First thing,
A roadmap. Roadmap assessment.
Yeah, you need a roadmap assessment. You need to do a proper, assessment to see what your ECCs are, processes are, and make your MDG S/4HANA your single source of truth, and do it today.
Yeah.
Do not wait for SAP ECC. Don't wait for ECC to be a single source of truth for business partners and master data. Make MDG a single source of truth and let MDG then replicate the data back to ECC. That way, what happens is all your company people start looking at MDG to enter data and get a flavor of MDG, get a flavor of Fury, get a flavor of workflows, get a flavor of machine learning, everything they get.
Yeah.
And with just one module.
What?
Just with one module, they can get all these flavors, right?
Yeah, that's true. But definitely roadmap people, hello, assessment,
yes.
Number 1 thing, assessment.
Yes. And
make sure you've got an idea before you just jump.
Yeah. And once you have done the assessment, it becomes very clear. It's like saying you want to go from A to B, which you have not got before. What do? You plug it into your Google map and see what it is. Look at the route and route, and then you start driving. Yeah. Because one is, you may know that I need to go to A to B. I know it takes me 1 hour. I can jump in a car and drive. But Google knows if there's accident, can route you. So it's always good to, feed in the direction and allow Google to tell you if there's a problem. You may not know, look at a map, but it tells you. 2 is, if there's a speed camera on there, you do not need someone in front coming, blinking at you saying there's a speed camera. Google tells you there's a speed camera, and better still, if you have a Tesla, it'll slow you down automatically.
Right. Oh, I know.
And that's what SAP S/4HANA does. The roadmap will actually tell you this is what it is. Here's a speed breaker. You're using this module, which is going to be very extremely difficult for you to move out. So first fix that, and then new GL. You've got to implement new GL, and you've got to do it at the end of the year or something like that. Those are the key things that the roadmap will tell you, which you need to know. So you know, I can only go to S/4HANA at the end of the year, not in the middle of the year. You will not know that if you didn't do that roadmap. Yeah.
Or you don't know if it's brownfield, bluefield, greenfield, whatever. You got to figure it out first. That's the biggest thing, And then a lot of people are asking, so succession, succession. Everybody's talking about like, who's going to take our place? So here's a question for us, which I think is good. What's the certification, or how do you start a career in S/4HANA?
How do you get a career in S/4HANA? Is that the question?
How do you do it? Yeah. How do you start a career?
Okay, so I'll just tell you my story.
I have some things. Let's hear yours too.
Yeah. So my story, 2015, when SAP came out with CFIN, I was not a finance guy. So I just read about the blogs, figured out what S4 was, attended a couple of webinars, and that was it. For me, the big thing came is when SAP came out with S/4HANA Logistics, not when the 1511, which was called the Enterprise Edition. That interested me because I am a logistics guy. I know MM, I know, all the stuff. And I saw, that was only finance, but this is now having everything. I went in and tried to understand everything, and then started writing a white paper around it when nobody in the world knew what it was. And there wasn't enough material to read about, right? So I actually white paper, and that white paper became the basis for this book. So my learning journey was reading about it, going to SAP Help, figuring out, what the product was all about, getting a hand on SAP S/4HANA, trying out a few things and figuring out the things. For you as a journey, that's very simple. If your company subscribes to Learning Hub, you have all the course of S/4HANA on the Learning Hub. Plus, you have got this book and several other books from SAP Press, which take you, if you are a controlling person or finance person, you have a finance deep dive book. If you're an ABAP person, there's an ABAP book. If you're a BTP person or a cloud person, you have the cloud analytics, there's an analytics book. HANA, there's a HANA book. So there are all the specific
all
books,
kinds of books,
which will basically give you a very good idea of what to do in a structured way. You can go to the internet, it's very unstructured. It really, it's difficult to learn. And then I think that if you know ECC, the best way to prove out is to say, I'll do S/4HANA, do a formal training either on SAP Learning Hub, which is a very easy way of doing it, or follow a structured pattern using as SAP Online Help and Books, and then look at the SAP certification website and certify. If you are an ECC, SD consultant, MM consultant, FI consultant, think of SAP S/4HANA as a Delta certification. It's really
Right.
not a reinvention, but a Delta certification. If you're an ABAPer, doing the new ABAP for HANA is again a Delta certification. But if you are looking at BTP, it's a completely new world. You have to learn BTP.
Right.
IBP, you have to learn IBP because it's very new and it has a new way of doing things. It's you can't do a Delta. Ariba is new. You can't just say I know SRM, I know Ariba. You don't, right? Same
So
thing with success factors.
yes. So here's my tip. So if you are trying to learn SAP, also you can do the SAP University Alliance program, which if you go online and look for that, you can find all the universities that have programs that have SAP, and you actually can go and take SAP classes at that university, and you can actually get certified at the universities as well. So you don't have to work for anybody at that point. You can just go and do that yourself. So that is another way to do that. If you feel like you need, to sit down in a classroom environment, but you don't have the, any way to do that. So that's the second way to do it.
And
But
that's amazing. That's an amazing way because I have myself studied and learned SAP at a university, and I've also taught at a university. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know. I always tell, it's so funny because people that have their kids now that are at a university and they don't know that that university has an SAP Alliance program, all of a sudden they're telling their kids, oh my God, you have to go take these classes at the SAP. Well, we didn't even realize it, to get their kids into SAP, which I think is pretty cool. But also, everybody, if you want to learn, another great way is go buy the book. And you can also get through the SAP Press Book Club, we are doing 15% off of the book. And all you got to do is go in and put Book Club 15. And that way you can get 50% off. So that's our little gift for hanging out with us today. And I just want to thank everybody here for joining us. And if you have any questions, you could always email either one of us. And I'm Kendall Tyler with GXC. And this is
Devraj Bardhan with IBM. And this doesn't stop here, right? Questions.
No.
We have LinkedIn, the page is there where you register for this. Drop your questions there. We'll keep looking up the questions there and we'll keep answering. Because for us, we are doing this because it's a love for this community, the love for SAP, and love that we have a knowledge that we really want to share and make, all of you aware of it. Because I mean, a lot of people, and if I want to learn something like machine learning and I do not know, I look up and say, okay, how do I learn it? And I have a lot of questions. Same thing for S4. If you have questions, come to me because we can just help you, with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think our biggest thing is both of us are doing this. We're not getting paid for any of this. We're doing this because we want everybody to love SAP again. Like, let's all get back to, this is all so cool and so new. And, back in the day when everybody was installing SAP, it was exciting, it was new. And then we kind of had a lag. And so now that we're getting out of our lag and we're jumping forward to the next thing. And so that is where we're at. And so please enjoy the learning process of this and enjoy SAP again. And we just want to thank you, SAP Press, for having both of us. And we think you guys are great. Yay, SAP Press. So, but thank you again. And thanks for joining. And make sure you go by SAP S/4HANA, an introduction. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.